Hello, hopefully I can get the light where the webcam isn't going to get confused by it. So, the Radiacode came, so that's the same one done by the company that does the radio scans, but this is their really cool spectrometer. So the video goes on tomorrow about this. I filmed it earlier, and it took about 45 minutes in the end, like the video length, as in just because it was so fun playing about with it, doing various things, that sort of the video just kept going on longer and longer, like let's get another sample out and test it. So if I put the clicker on, hang on, there you go, that's the clicker on, and it's picking up just stuff from in the room at the moment, or maybe out there, but yep, it's very, very good. Obviously there'll be a full video on it tomorrow, so most of the more detailed things people might want to ask about it will be answered in the video, but if there's any questions I can answer on this stream, I'll show it there. So it charges via USB-C, and again, the webcam really doesn't focus very well with the light, does it? So it charges via USB-C if the webcam focuses on that. There you go. So it charges via USB-C. I think it says it's a 500-hour battery on there. So basically, when it's fully charged, it lasts a few weeks before it needs to be recharged. And it's got different modes on there. So I'll wait for some people to get into the chat, because it says there are people watching, but nobody's talking. All right, Lewis, you're the first one on. So yeah, the full video will be on this tomorrow, but I thought I might as well show it on this stream today, and then it gives us something to talk about. All right, Justin? My stomach's better again today as well. It was improved yesterday from the day before, and today it's better than yesterday, so that's good. It's what's in my hand right now, Lewis. So a Radiacode is... So it's made by a company called Scan, which is the one that do the radio scans. It's a Russian electronics company. But this is a scintillation spectrometer. So what that means, in really, really simple language, is that it amplifies ionizing radiation coming in to detect it from a longer distance, and it can tell you exactly the energy of the radiation. Yeah, Fuzzy, it's the one I mentioned a few weeks ago that was being sent. Turned up yesterday. And I liked playing with it so much that I've already done a 45-minute video that goes on tomorrow for it. So the main thing that makes it interesting is it does this. You can connect it to your phone as well, if the webcam wants to focus. Great, the webcam's not going to focus. Right, I'll show you on the phone, because I only really use one Swiss Army knife, and I keep that on my free keyring. Yeah, Fluzzy, considering old-fashioned scintillation counters used to be about literally a foot long, it's very compact. World War II is a lot more interesting, in my opinion, than World War I. Anyway, let me get up the app for it. So what I can do, look, is I can do restart accumulation. And what it will start doing now is it's going to start looking up every sort of, every time it counts different frequencies of ionizing radiation, it plots them on the graph. Again, unfortunately, the webcam doesn't want to focus on the screen very well. I have at least 3 functional firearms, but they're obsolete calibers. But so what obsolete caliber means is it's a fully functioning gun. It's not deactivated, but the ammo's hard to get. Therefore, it's not classed as a firearm unless it's actively being shot. That's the simple sort of answer for it. So yeah, what this does is as it basically does a scan, it plots the radiation on the graph at the frequencies. It's not a Geiger counter. It's a scintillation spectrometer. It's miles better than the Geiger counter. Saying that, there are things Geiger counters do that can't do, but a spectrometer is completely different type of thing. You can't get an energy spectrum from a Geiger counter. So that's an energy spectrum. Oh yeah, RP. This because it's a scintillation counter. It will pick up radiation. The reason it's ticking quite fast now is it can pick up the radiation in my gun safe, through like all the lead shielding, where a Geiger counter won't know that's in there. But yeah, I'll show you the cool thing this does using the app. So let's get, for example, these radium watch hands. So we'll get these. I'll just turn the alarm off. So what's going to happen now, where I've got those radium watch hands on there, is the chart is going to start showing the energies coming off of the radium watch hands. And you can then use that chart to find out what the radiation source is from. PDRM82, not very much, it seems, is the good news. But you have to wait till they're released on the Western market to find out the exact price. So what we can do now is, if we look at where there's like the extra bits, the extra lines forming. So that one looks like it's... Yeah, so look, we can see there's lines forming there, and there you go, radium 226. So it knows it's radium. Right, I'll stop holding radium in my hand now, but yeah. Let's turn the alarm off again. So yeah, for the people who don't understand how any of this technology works, the Geiger counter doesn't know what's setting it off. It just basically says 1 count equals whatever. Whereas this thing obviously will literally tell you what's out and about. Yeah, that's not very much, is it? $10,000 or pounds or whatever for a T72. Cheaper than some cars today. There's also a map function that's pretty good. Let me get the map function up, and then I'll zoom in on like a place I walked today. So yeah, the map function's a bit like what the Atom Tag does. It has that same sort of feature. So you can see there where I was walking earlier, and you can see the color changes as well, where it tells you what the radiation doses were on like a route you walked. So if you had this turned on, you were in your car, you could see like if there was any radiation spikes like somewhere on the road. If you're looking at those aren't coffee can filters. Those coffee cans are round filters. As in, they look like a coffee can. Those are just box filters. So on that bit out there, the highest bit of radiation was about 10 microrontgens, which isn't very high. But that's still higher than background, I believe, if it focuses. I wonder if I can get this chart to display in sieverts. Hang on a second. 10 microrontgen to SV. Right, I need to use the radiation site that's good. Radiation units converter. So I want to do microrontgen 10. 10 microrontgens per hour to microsieverts per hour is 0.08. That's not too bad then. But yeah, it's interesting though that you can see where very random bugs. Yes, this gets brought up like every few streams. Some people have permission to do it, some people don't. I really can't be asked to try and go through eBay to get people to take down listings if they just take stills from my videos. It's really pointless. Yeah, Fluzzy, it might be worth seeing if these go on to like the UK market within a month or so. These might end up being cheaper than some of the Geiger counters, because I thought they were going to be a lot more expensive than what I reckon they might be. It's the GMC 300 is all right, but if you spend a bit more money, you can get something a lot better. Like if you could afford a GMC 500, don't get 300, for example. I don't have an Apple Cold War, so I don't know. I would assume if it's on Android, there's also an Apple app, but so the really cool thing with this as well is what was the other thing? So I was out walking with it earlier, and I think I've said to you about this before, some of the people. I've had a thing where there's some train tracks near me, and when I went there before, my Geiger counter ticked a bit higher than normal, but not anything scary. So when I was there earlier, I went through that same direction and took this down there, and it spiked again in that same area because I took a screenshot of it. And if it focuses, oh dear, it's not going to focus, is it? But Cobalt 60. So they are obviously transporting something by train, and a bit of it leaked at some point. Yeah, the Radiascan 701A is very good, Flazzy, but I have a feeling that if these might be a lot cheaper than the Radiascans, and for most people they might be more useful. As in the old TV series Supernatural, I've watched a few episodes of it. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but I watched it now and again if it was on and I wasn't doing anything. Yeah, hello to everybody coming on anyway. But yeah, the crazy thing with this as well is that it picks up radiation from a lot further away than a Geiger counter. So, you can detect radiation through walls a lot easier. Flazzy, they're a lot better today, thanks, than they were yesterday, and yesterday they were better than Tuesday. So I'm hoping that, by Friday or Saturday, I feel completely back to normal again, in that sort of sense. Because I do lots of videos on radioactive stuff, GZ do, so obviously if you're a manufacturer, I'm sort of one of the people they think, oh, it might be worth sending in one to get some publicity. All right, your mother? That's generally how that sort of stuff works a lot with. It's why like a load of tech YouTubers for certain things always get stuff earlier as well. Basically, companies have my email address, and then I'll say either yes or no if they offer me something. Obviously, I would never accept something if they said you have to give it like a good review. The option is if you send me a good product and I genuinely think it's good, then I'll give it a good review. But I don't want to be in that sort of shill territory where companies would say to you, oh, you can only get a product if you're going to give it a good review. It's a modern, basically, like, so you know how a scintillation counter works? So it's a photo multiplier, but like a modern digital one. So basically it means you can make something about that big that works as well as an old scintillation spectrometer. You can find stuff, Jacob, if you're interested in all the technical details online that explain it. Like, I'm not really interested in that regard. I just know that it works and it does, it's doing its job properly. Yeah, well, PDRM82, what I'm going to do at some point, I didn't do it in the video I did today to go on tomorrow, but I am going to do a test of that Chinese X-ray thing to see what stuff comes off of that. Pergio, in person, it looks like a decent Airsoft M4 sort of thing. So I've got an actual Airsoft M4 that's a licensed one, where other than the fucking two-tone plastic because of the UCARA stuff, although you can swap that out. Like, all the metal stuff is actual metal, like steel and aluminium. The only annoying thing with this one is it's plasticky, but it's quite a tough plastic, because obviously it's designed to be, I guess, not as expensive as like the ones where they make them like 1-1 replicas. The only thing I'd complain about with the plastic is the rear rail on it, as in like the rail, not the ones on the handguard rails, but like the rear rail on the top of the receiver. That is quite crap, that rail. It's almost useless because it's not big enough, like, ridges on the rail to actually get attachments to go on properly. Yeah, so there you go. I don't know if you can see that on there, but there's our energy spectrum for right now. And if you didn't see what I was doing earlier, Jacob, if you came on afterwards, I got some radium out, put the, let's go back to the app, and I don't want the map view, I want the spectrum view. And I was getting some radium out, and I was just demonstrating that live on there, that, you know, we could tell it was, just the app will tell you that it's like radium-226. Everything I've tested the app on so far has been very accurate. You know, so it's either got the radionuclide exactly right, or it's shown some of the peaks for what it should be and some of the peaks for similar things. As in, let me try and explain that. So, say you've got something that's like a natural uranium thing or a natural thorium thing. Generally, I've noticed a lot of those say uranium, thorium, and bits of the radium spectrum, but I imagine that's because all of those are naturally occurring, so it's probably like a purity of the sample type thing. Right, Newt or Kit Kat? No, you don't need a license for a crossbow here. So yeah, so like I was saying, if you didn't see the picture as well earlier, here's one I just took a screenshot when I was out. So that's where it picks up cobalt 60 spikes, because there's a railway near me where my Geiger counter always goes off near the railway, and there was 2 of the cobalt 60 spikes there. I think that's a bit of a cesium 137 spike there as well. But Oxfordshire, Joshua. Yeah, the cool thing with this, Jacob, is you don't need a big shielded thing for it, because the problem is with like a lot of lab type ones is they're not portable. Now, the advantage to those is because you have all the shielding around it, you're not going to get other things interfere with your reading. Because the problem with taking a reading of something in this house is because I've got some uranium ore over there that's quite low energy, you know, so it's safe to just have on plastic cases. And because I've got, you know, some like Vaseline glass in a couple of rooms and stuff like that, and in that room in the safe I've got loads of samples, what you end up start having with this one is it will start picking up bits of other stuff hitting it because of how sensitive it is. Right, Nick? There's not really any recoil to the gel gun. Bear in mind, it will shake about a bit as you shoot it, but that's just because of the motor in it running. Microwaves aren't radioactive. Well, not ionizing radiation, they give off microwaves. Ionizing radiation is essentially the far end of the UV spectrum, X-rays and gamma rays. There's alpha and beta and stuff like that as well as neutrons, but essentially when people say radiation, they just mean essentially, they generally don't even mean ultraviolet, even though that will be for skin cancer. It's generally just X-rays and gamma rays when people say radiation. Because microwaves, you need something that detects microwaves for that. Microwaves are on a completely different bit of the spectrum. It's like the people who suddenly think 5G will give you cancer because it's like, oh, but it's radiation, it's energy. It's not ionizing radiation. Yeah, I assume that, Kit Kat, from like looking at the you know, picture was the same. But yeah, when you say the negative ion stuff, Jacob, do you mean Chinese health products? If it had a shitty door flazzy, it probably wouldn't do you any good. There's a very, very good video by the Iranian bloke who likes blowing stuff up. Is that Electro Boom? I'm trying to remember his actual channel name, but he's done a good one explaining how microwaves work and like fucking about with like microwaves and setting stuff on fire with them. But yeah, but Flazzy, in theory, there are a lot of microwaves that aren't that well sealed, as in if you get something that detects microwaves, you'll realise there's quite a lot of them scattering out of the thing. You know, where I imagine if your hand was in the wrong place, it might cause some sort of genetic damage. But microwaves actually heat stuff up through vibrating it, don't they? They have a thing called a magnetron, and they have... I'll show you what's in a microwave, because I've got some spare ones down here. in a microwave, you essentially have one of these, which is a big old fuck off high voltage transformer, which will yeah, Fluzzy. The scariest bit of the microwave is probably one of these, because this will fucking fry you if you got a shock off one of these and it was plugged in, or the capacitor. If the capacitor from the microwave dumped its charge into you, it would do the same thing. So yeah, with a microwave, these are the scarier bits of them because of look at all those windings, eh? Look at all that metal winding for the high voltage. So yeah, if you watch homemade electronics channels, microwave transformers are pretty fun to cannibalize for making, you know, deadly electric things. Oh, that's interesting, Jacob. That's good if they're taking it down, isn't it? Especially that stuff where they claim it's health product. Yeah, but saying about that, I didn't show it in the video I did today because I didn't have time, but you'll find this interesting. Because I've done a bit of stuff like that, you know, where I've bought stuff to see if it's dangerous. So there is that look. This is negative ion healing powder, they sell. The camera's probably not going to focus very well, which is annoying. So that's it running on a bag of the Chinese healing powder, you know, negative ion health beneficial powder. I bought a packet of it on eBay to see what it did for making bracelets out of, or maybe putting in your tea. Very Soviet thing to do, put that in your tea. And what do you think the spectrum showed? Oh, look, thorium-232 chain, if that focuses. There you go, thorium-232 energy chain on there, or energy peaks. But yeah, so this will literally confirm stuff like that for you. If you put this on a product, you know, and it's radioactive, it will work out what it's coming from, you know, like that. So yeah, this makes it very, very fast and simple if you just literally want to find out what the actual, you know, mineral is, and essentially a radiation source. Right, Cold War, as I said before, if it's very, very, like, boring uranium stuff, some of that's over there on the piano like a shelf, because that stuff is the stuff that's very, very low-level activity stuff, you know, like uranium-based gemstones. I've done a video on the how I store the more active stuff, but my more active stuff is essentially sealed in ammo boxes, you know, like 50 cal tin type things, or grenade cans, those sort of things, with lead sheeting in it. Then that's clamped down, and then that goes in a solid steel gun safe that's designed, you know, so people can't break into it or rip it off the wall. And that is good enough to basically mean that you don't get a radiation reading from a Geiger counter until you put the Geiger counter right on the side of the gun safe, you know, and then you'll notice it's slightly higher than background. But this thing can actually pick it up from about 5 or 6 yards away because of how sensitive it is. Right, KitKat. I don't think this is for sale yet in like Western Europe or America, hence why they sent me one to do a video on it. But I imagine it'll be sold very soon. You can find these for sale in Russia, but over here yet they're not for sale. Top Hatman said, on a Jailsoft video and you go, unless they have a water butt, yeah. When I installed one, it filled in one night. So what's your... With ours, if you mean how does it not overflow, our water butt has a thing that when the water rises to a certain height, it goes down a drainage pipe. So basically, the water butt fills up, and then when the water butt gets to its overflow level, it then goes into another drain pipe that takes it down the drain. But yeah, KitKat, the good thing is it should actually be pretty competitively priced, I think, for what it is. Because if you look at what the Russian sites are charging for these, assuming they're legit sellers selling them, they're probably going to end up under 200 euros or 200 pounds for these, which is pretty insane, because the FLIR Identifier is the only thing like this that I can think of on the market, and they're like 7 to 10 grand. So I was thinking this would be like a couple of grand, but I don't think it actually is going to be that. I think it's just going to be... normally use it for watering plants, Top Hat Man. Oh, what? So, yeah, they just changed the keywords, Jacob. Yeah. But yeah, it's awful, isn't it? Stuff like that, where it's essentially products that will fucking harm people. You know, give them cancer, shorten their lives, and stuff like that. That are being advertised as some sort of quack health cure thing. All right, Mike. So this is that little thing, Mike. That's how small it is. You can see a bit of an energy spectrum there, but obviously it's not very good to show this on webcam because it doesn't focus on it very well. But the good thing is, like I was saying to other people, it's got an app that works with it, and you can also have it so it can set an alarm off on your phone if you go into like a radioactive area or whatever, so you don't have to rely on the little sound coming from that. Let me get the app up. So the app is just called Radiacode. So there's my current thing, and I can, for example, reset that, restart accumulation. Yes, and then it will start building up a new spectrum again. Yeah, I wouldn't want to, Flazzy, because couldn't you imagine if you even did that as a joke video where somebody would report it and say you're actually trying to poison people with it? Yeah, well, that's the thing, Jacob, is if it's going through the regular postal system, it's going to be essentially irradiating everybody as it goes through the postal system. And the other problem is, of course, every time, especially if they, like, especially the ones where, right, they just get like a really thin sandwich bag type thing, and they put thorium powder in it. Imagine how many of those just probably get split and, like, go everywhere and has to get swept up and nobody even knows what they're dealing with. You know, because especially if it's that ground up powder that's going to go down you just like a dust, and then that's irradiated dust in your lungs, essentially. Because some of the thorium spikes are actually quite scary in terms of how much energy they give off. I have no idea. I'm afraid Kit Kat Hype would be the best person to ask about, like, the RRP and night vision tubes. Oh, and as for what was the question I missed? I saw there was one that seemed relevant. Cold War, upcoming gas mask videos. Right, it won't be with me anytime soon, but Hype's gifting me and Duke another Chinese gas mask that's a pretty rare one. So there'll be a video on that when I get it, but I don't know how long that's going to take to come. Yeah, it's annoying though, Jacob, isn't it? How silly it is, like, that this stuff is being sold. You keep bringing it up to people, and other people bring it up to authorities. And so many of them are, oh, we can't really be bothered to do our job kind of thing. It depends, PDRM82, what kind of radium dial it is. If you have like an old radium watch dial, that's probably not going to be that active. Like I say, probably, it might be, but a lot of old radium watches I've found don't have that much radium in the paint. If it's an old radium aircraft dial, then they can be incredibly active. And if you have one like that, then you, yes, want to keep it in an airtight container at a minimum just to stop radon gas leaking out. Because obviously radon is pretty nasty stuff. There's another thing, Jacob, that annoys me like that, is over in the UK, if we want to buy the radioactive samples, you know, like cesium-137, cobalt-60, those are all legal, but there's loads and loads and loads of rules about who's allowed to supply them, you know, and all that sort of stuff. So to buy those, it's really expensive. It actually works out cheaper to legally buy them from the US and have them shipped over with a specialist courier from the US. And what's really annoying about that is the fact that there's all this really dodgy radioactive stuff that's not even being labeled as radioactive, like just sold on eBay. And nobody seems to care about that. But they make a fuss if you want to buy a really safe kind of plastic sealed sample for doing tests with something like this, then that's I don't know if the IAEA would care. But this is the problem, Jacob. I think there's a lot of organizations like that honestly just do not care about stuff like this. You know, that maybe I'm being cynical, but in an ideal world, all of these regulatory bodies should do their job. I think in reality, like we've seen over and over again with various things, lots of groups just don't care when it comes to enforcing rules. It's, oh, my mate's getting money from it, that kind of thing, then okay, it's all right, you know. Or we'll take some people down, but not other people, depending on who they're friends with. And yeah, exactly, Fuzzy. I think any of those UN type organizations are like that. When you let loads of different people in, you know, like essentially you have loads of different members from loads of different countries around the world, and it gets so diluted in terms of like who actually has authority to do anything. It's like imagine World Health Organization, but yeah, just to do with nuclear stuff. But yeah. Like I said, I don't really know enough about the politics of the IAEA, and I don't really want to turn this into a politics stream of the IAEA. I was trying to think if there's anything else particularly interesting I can show this working on. But there's a video tomorrow with loads of stuff of it being tested on. Yeah, so all you have to do to charge it, pretty simple, is it comes with a charging cable. This isn't the one, but you just have to basically plug it into a USB-C and it starts charging. That's all there is to it. So I assume by 0.0016 centigrade, right, well, 0.1 centigrade is 100 like 100 milligray or millisieverts, isn't it? So yeah, I'm just working this out. So 0.1 millisieverts, 100 microsieverts. So say basically you're saying it's about 16 microsieverts, right? I wouldn't worry. I'd put in a sealed plastic container to avoid radon, but 16 microsieverts is pretty weak. JJ Amazon, but I'm not allowed to say, am I, because of YouTube's policies on it now. What do you mean, Will the World War II collector? As in to buy a jar to put the gel balls in, or to fill a jar with those gel balls? Because I think for about £10, you could probably get 10,000 plus of those gel balls. Oh, that sounds very interesting, Justin. You don't buy them as a jar full. You have to buy them, and you buy them as a sealed little packet, and then you fill up a jar with them. They don't sell them as a jar full because it's a waste of space. You literally buy them as these little, like a little sachet like that. You pour it into any sort of container that holds water. So you could do it with a drinking glass if you really wanted to, for example, but a sealed bottle is better. What I've done now to make up all the rest of my one is I've got an old protein shaker. I filled that entirely with water, poured all the packets in, and now I've got like a massive bottle filled with them, you know, like a litre-sized bottle. But it's got like an actual nozzle at the top that if I open it, I can pour it directly into the mag from that. I'm going to turn the speaker off on this now because it's tick, 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 ticking. Anyway, if you want to see the modes on here, so there's settings. I won't go into that because that's just like changing units and measurements. So there's spectrum. That's the one we're on. If it focuses, I bet it won't focus. Thank you, webcam. Spectrum. Monitor. So that's the one that shows you like the active radiation levels. That's like a standard Geiger counter screen. Then there's dose, so that's your accumulative dose since you last reset it. Pretty straightforward. Search, and that's where you can basically use the bars and the CPM or CPS, depending on what you've got it set to work out if you're getting closer or further away from a radiation source if you're trying to hunt it down. And then there's power off, which I assume turns it off. I'm not bothered doing that setting yet. No, it definitely doesn't hurt as much as paintball. But bear in mind, obviously, you don't want it to hit you in the eye. It can still destroy your eyeball. Have you not watched any of the ones I've done 2 grams of gold? Because I did a load recently. Well, the problem is, Fuzzy, as much as you could soak them in different liquids and they'd absorb those liquids, I imagine the gel is probably not safe to eat or drink. Because I was thinking about that, but I reckon there's probably some sort of chemicals in the gel that aren't good if they get into your system. As cool as a beer blaster would be, yes. And also, Tyler, bear in mind, a bit like airsoft guns, some brands of these guns shoot at higher or lower velocity than others. Because I think some of the single shot, like bolt action spring type ones, you know, where you pull a bolt back and it pops a massive spring for the air pressure that shoots it out. A lot of those, I think, probably more like 500, 600 feet per second, whereas a lot of the AEG style ones, you know, are like 200 FPS, like 200 to 300 FPS. That's very cool, Justin. It's funny because I hadn't even heard of that stuff. Yeah, it's right there, look. I was showing it in this stream, and it's in the video tomorrow if you watch it then. But yeah, it's saying it works. It works perfectly fine. All the English translations in this seem fine as well. I don't think I've run into anything on here where it wasn't in proper English. It's also got a logging mode, which is pretty useful as well if you just want to look back at a timeline of what it's been doing when you've not been looking at it. Oh no, look, my room's got to 33 Celsius now. I hate this room. If it focuses. If it focuses. No, it's not going to focus, is it? Oh, there we go. See, 33 Celsius. A week or so ago, it had been 41 Celsius on that. It's made by the company that does the Radiacode, Jacob. So, as in, I think they're just called Scan. So, as in, like, Radiacode is their spectrometer, the Radioscan is their Geiger counter. But like I said, I'm sure eventually, like relatively soon, they're going to have them for sale on like Western websites. All right, I'd say the best beer full stop I've had was a French one or a Belgian one. I think it's Belgian actually, rather than French, called Guillotine. And it was one of those ones that, you know, came in like one of those big kind of almost like ceramic beer bottles with a cork on it. I've had those a few times, but they're too expensive to import. So it's like one of those ones where if somebody goes to France or Belgium, you know, and they get them in the off license and bring a load back, they're worth it. They're not really worth buying with that, but they're really good. Yeah, Peter, I'm 82. My uncle's got a really old retro air rifle where the spring and all the seals in it are totally knackered, so it's essentially like a pea shooter. No, I didn't, Oliver. I have to look at that at some point, but YouTube recommended has gone to total shit again. Guess what YouTube was recommending me yesterday when I had a look? It was either yesterday or today, but because I was speaking to Mike about some of the awful things in my YouTube recommended. But this will be one that will really make you go, why? But if Mike's on, have a guess, Mike, what was in my YouTube recommended today? Right, we'll get rid of the anti-vaxxer from the chat. It's your own choice if you get a vaccine or not, but we don't want to have a fun stream talking about whatever on here and somebody bringing up loads of politics around fucking vaccination. Right, Mike. It was lessons from the Quran in various languages. So some of them weren't even in English. So it was like squiggly writing with a picture of the Quran. Like, you know, half an hour long videos. It's like, wow, that's definitely what I want to watch. Thanks, YouTube. Yeah, I don't think I've watched anything Islamic related on YouTube or like Quran related yet. They now think my recommendations want to be filled with like lessons from the Quran, you know, lessons from Prophet Muhammad. Well, so like Sky News, that would be relevant, especially if it's Sky News Australia. That they got suspended, didn't they, from YouTube recently for saying something probably truthful. The thing is, Oliver, it's like there would be some stuff in my like history, like YouTube watch history, that's related to like conflicts in the Middle East and stuff like that. That is as far as it goes, but who knows? Man gets chased by alligator sounds more fun than the videos I was recommended. So I'll let you know when I get the teachings of Jehovah in my recommended as well, and you know, like some meditation videos as well, because I'm sure they'll eventually be in the pipeline. But yeah, it's just so weird because like I can't think of anything I've watched where this would even think it's a recommended thing. Yeah, that's the thing though, JJ. I can get it when you've watched a load of something and then you get a recommendation because you've watched a load of something related. I can totally get that. What I can't get though is when YouTube suddenly thinks like, oh, let's shove dozens of this type of video on you because maybe you might find them interesting. That's good, Justin, if it makes it easier to book if you want a book to go somewhere like that. Because like I said, the problem I know a lot of people have had, I didn't have this issue, but some people I know didn't get a vaccination just because in a lot of places near us, there weren't a lot of vaccination centres open. You know, so they'd be people that didn't have a car, and then they'd be told like, oh, you'd have to get your vaccination done at this place, and it's somewhere that isn't even on the bus route. You know, like a village hall in a remote village somewhere, like 20 miles away. It's like, yeah, we're not doing that. James May swearing sounds more interesting. Bollocks. Yeah, I was like saying, like I can totally get, like I can get why sometimes if I watch a couple of videos on a certain like video game, why my recommended is completely full of that. I can get stuff like that, you know, that makes total sense to me. It's just when you get stuff that's like you've not looked up anything like that, and then suddenly YouTube just starts spamming your recommended with it. But saying that, maybe those videos that were recommended to me were ones they were like pushing across all of YouTube. I don't know. I could potentially get one, JJ, but I'm still playing Fallout 2 at the moment, Flazzy, but I'm just not streaming it at the moment because I was doing like a webcam stream tonight. But yeah, I can stream some more Fallout 2 at some point, or New Vegas Randomizer if I set that back up. But yeah, what was I going to say about the thing somebody recommended me earlier that looked really good in the gun video? They said they're UK legal, but I can't find any UK sites selling them. Is the automatic air rifles, because I thought automatic air rifles are banned in the UK. I did see on PAL packs you can buy semi-automatic air rifles, you know, that work like the CO2 pistols where you load up a mag, and then there's also a gas, like a CO2 cartridge in the mag. They look all right, but the automatic ones obviously look more fun for the obvious reasons that they're automatic. When you keep saying drill, I keep thinking you're on about that like rap music, whatever it's called. And they keep saying like, "Oh, drill's causing kids in London to stab each other." I don't even know if that's true or not. I don't care. Yeah, that's the thing, Nick. Do you know anywhere in the UK? I suppose you're not allowed to mention it on these streams, are you? Or YouTube in total now, if it's firearms related. I was going to say, are there any retailers in the UK that do the PAL pack style delivery thing, where you can buy them even if the FPS is like gimped on them? Because I wouldn't mind getting one, but that's the thing. It's like Googling it came up with no results, or it keeps showing me like results for America. You know, it's like, well, no, I'm not on about the UK. Yeah, that was the thing, Flazzy, because the ones I saw on video, there was one that looked all right that was on an American channel. And again, it wouldn't be something you could get over here, I don't think. because it was one shooting about 400 FPS, you know, on 22 or 177, whatever it was. And again, it's not as good as a break barrel's muzzle velocity, but I think it was more that was just one designed for plinking stuff that was fun. But yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? That again, if it's full auto with an air gun type mechanism, it's not going to have much energy per shot. Otherwise, it would just drain the gas really quickly. Right, let me search them, Mick. So, yeah, thank you. I have found their site. So, yeah, CO2 air rifles. Yeah, thank you. Right, let me bookmark the site because this will be a useful one to know about. Especially, again, because if they're air rifles, they don't need to do the bloody two-tone stuff on them, do they? Like airsoft guns. Well, no, technically, with all that VCRA stuff, a site is allowed to sell you one that isn't two-tone if they consider it a good enough risk to sell it you, but just most don't because they don't want to be done in like a sting operation. All right, Nick, I'll avoid them. Like I said, it's not something I'm going to imminently be buying. It's just one of those things where I am tempted if I wanted something that looks like quite a good-looking replica, but, you know, a fairly solid type thing. I don't think I have an M79. Do you mean my M72 RPK? If you mean that, that's in a gun bag, and I can't get them out on streams anymore, your mother, because I get a strike for it. But I don't have an M79 grenade launcher. Is that what you're on about? Like the Thump or whatever it's called, that one? I don't have one of them, unfortunately. I have no idea how much a Shums mask currently costs because of Corona. It screwed the prices up for everything. Yeah, well, that's the thing, JJ. I don't really like. Again, if it's just for the sake of buying something that's like a good-looking replica, I don't mind if it's paintball or like a CO2 air rifle type thing. You know, that doesn't bother me at all. It's more just kind of, you know, if it's good for the price for what it is, you know, because obviously, like, if it does the same things to deactivate a gun plus more, and it's a lot cheaper than deactivate a gun, it makes more sense to get one. Unfortunately, your mother, I imagine they're very expensive, those, for what they are. All right, cheers, Nick. I'll look into it. Like I said, I'm not imminently planning on buying one, but it's worth bookmarking the site if you say they're all right. Right, you won't be on Twitch tonight. All right, Mike, if you're not going to be on Twitch tonight, watch that Red Letter Media video I sent you yesterday, because I think you'll find it really, really funny. I found it really, really funny when I watched it again last night. I had to download it in case YouTube deletes it because of, you know, mentioning the top of the building on a certain date. Yeah, I think the thing was more we were just saying, JJ, that it's just more knowing what sites stock what stuff in. Does that make sense? Because it's just like, again, I probably can't say which sites I've used on here because it's probably breaking YouTube's rules now because they've got so strict on like firearms related stuff. Yeah, right. What you should do, Mike, tonight, if you don't have time to watch the full thing tonight, just watch the 1 minute extract because I think that will make you laugh where they just clipped like a minute out of the episode. But the full video is a lot funnier. But yeah, it's about some very, very strange, weird kids film type thing. Is it Creating Rem Lazar? It's called, or Finding Rem Lazar, something like that. I'm sure some of you in the chat will know what we're on about. About the purple-haired bloke that stalks children, who is totally not a nonce, who sings songs, and there's a bit with, oh, I need something higher than a mountain. Oh, the Empire State Building. No, it's higher than that. And there's two of them. Oh, no. Well, yeah. Yeah, that's Australia. Fucking gel blasters are classed as firearms in Australia now. Like, what are they doing? That's worse than here. Crikey, mate, it's a rifle. You need a license for that. Yeah, I didn't say the actual word, Mike. Apparently, though, it's more if you have a picture in the video from what I've heard from the people who were given strikes. It was more the people who had like the video clip or the pictures of the actual event. Oh, it's a very good price for an old bayonet. I think regardless of what the bayonet is, if you got one for that price, that's brilliant. Even like an AK is a bayonet is a good price. Let me look up what an M7 bayonet is. Is that a US one? Oh yeah, it is. Is that? Oh, so it's the one that was on the M16. Because yeah, the M1 carbine bayonet looks quite similar to that as well, doesn't it? But yeah, if you got one of those for 30 quid, that's amazing. Because sometimes some of the deactivated gun sites in the UK get a load of bayonets in, and they're the ones that I need to buy more of if I swap them at a good price. Yeah, we're all good, thank you, Tristan, although I'll be off in a minute. But yeah, €30, that's even less than £30, isn't it, €30? Because yeah, the best bayonet I've got that isn't a specific bayonet like the massive bayonet I've got there, look, on the, see the one on the Enfield, the massive bayonet on there? My favourite bayonets out of the ones that you can sometimes get cheaply because I guess of oversupply of them was the Swiss bayonets. Sadly, not the ones for the what's it that we like. Yeah, so unfortunately, not for the ones that are for the Martini Henry, or whatever it was. Not Martini Henry. Not the Schmidt Rubin, unfortunately. What's this come off of? I've just spotted I've got a really small laser and IR light thing in there. Don't even know what this has come off of. Does this go on a crossbow, maybe? That's weird. I don't even know what this has come off. I just found it in my drawer. Yeah, I might fit that to that gel blaster then. Unfortunately, Flazzy, aren't because of that mass shooting, New Zealand's going to get much, much stricter, apparently, on guns, like banning loads of different types of them. But yeah, anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, the Sturmgewehr 57, or whatever it's called, the SIG 510, the bayonet for that